welcome back to the Fixing Football podcast with me, Martin Naylor, and this week's episode is going to be focused on Ruben Amorim and Ange Postecoglu. Now, we're not here to kick them while they're down. We want to focus on, is the whole project of these managers and backing them. Listen, they're the ones who are getting the stick right now. The fans have turned at both clubs. And here with me to discuss if it is their fault is, as always, Mr. Ever-Present, Mr. Fixing Football, Liam O'Meara. Liam, how are you, mate?
Very well, Martin, thank you. We might kick them a little bit while they're down. We probably will do a little bit.
It wouldn't be fun if we didn't give that a little go.
But so, I'm good. How are you, Martin?
Yeah, I'm fine. We've had a good weekend. McElroy won the Masters. I'm still reeling from that because I had such a great night watching it. But listen, let's get straight into football, mate.
Yes.
Ruben Amorim, Ange Postecoglu. They are both figureheads of this project, this style of play, this way of football at their respective clubs, at Manchester United and Tottenham. They're both, I think, 13th and 14th in the league or somewhere in that spot. And the fans have turned now. It's becoming apparent that they may not be as qualified as once believed for these roles. And what we want to know is it really their fault?
Yeah, well, that's a really good point. And I think the qualified thing's quite an interesting one when it comes particularly Postecoglu. I'm seeing that thrown quite a lot his way, this idea that he's out of his depth at Tottenham. I mean, I can understand why that gets thrown at him because he's come from the SPFL. So I kind of get it, but I don't think that tells the full story of what's going on at that club. But you're quite right. These are the ones that are facing quite a lot of pressure at the moment. And it's because in England, as a manager, you're the face of the club, aren't you? And in a way that you're not in other places. And Spurs is an interesting example because I always think back to Conte talking about this. He always talks about this idea of, you're always asking me about transfers and what the plans are in the summer. I don't know. That's not my job. He's like, why in England, why do I have to answer this question when it's not about me? In Italy, the sporting director would be asked that question. He would be front and center, but only in England, you come to me asking me, I don't know. Like, why are you asking me this question? And I just found that whole concept very, very interesting.
Well, we'll get on to them in a minute, but that's a good point. Is that are we as fans and as, you know, the media, are still stuck in a time of Sir Alex Ferguson and Arsene Wenger, these figureheads who run the club from top to bottom, and that's the way that all clubs should work, or especially the successful ones, over the, say, you know, apart from the last 10, but prior to that, the previous 20 years of all the time in the Premier League, that they were the two most successful clubs. And they had these guys, these single figures who ran the club top to bottom. And we sort of expect that from this new generation, but the reality is, in fact, a lot more European than one would seem, you know, on the eye.
Yeah. The sole figurehead, it's a sign of the times because of the money involved. No. The money involved just means that you need other people being across decisions like that. The accountability of someone being able to make decisions of that magnitude that has that cost implication. It's just hard for one person to do it, I think. But here's a question, Martin, about this. How important is the manager? Do you think we have a over-inflated sense of the importance of the manager? Because my personal view is that the most important factor when it comes to success at a football club is recruitment. The players you bring in. I think that is almost the defining factor. Or do you think we put too much emphasis on a manager being able to get more of the sum of his parts than maybe we should do as fans?
Well, that's interesting. Good question. Well, let's look at the most successful manager, Pep Guardiola. Is he the one leading the charge when it comes to transfers? Probably not. So and I'm not going to butcher his name, but they call him Chiqui, the ex-Barcelona.
Chiqui Berigstein, yeah.
Yeah. I'll let you butcher his name.
Don't think that. Well, I mean, apologies if he's listening. I imagine he's probably not.
You can't be too sure. Listen,
I don't think he's not even in England anymore, is he? He's gone
no.
back in Spain now.
But I think he's front and centre when it comes to transfers and the transfer policy of Man City. Obviously, with Pep's blessing. So, but I don't know. It's something I never really thought about. And my initial reaction to that question would be, yeah, the manager is the most important. But you make a good point that recruitment, because all we want to see is new players, new this, new that, new shiny thing for me to cheer and love.
The reason I ask, before you carry on, the reason I ask is the biggest correlation factor of success, particularly in the Premier League, is wages spent. That is, the club generally that spends more are higher in the table on wages.
Correct.
So, how then, when you look at a certain manager, and I think this is where we're not going to Tottenham into too much detail yet, but when you then consider the manager being in charge of what can they actually impact and how effective can they be, when you consider that is the biggest definer of success in the English game?
Again, yeah, it's very hard when there's two different metrics there. It would be wrong to single out one and say this means success, because there's not a lot of points in between. I don't know, let's say 15th and 8th. But that is a massive scope in terms of, what happens to you next season as a Premier League club. And the gap in terms of a 16th place club and an 8th place club, or a 1st and a 7th place club, is generally massive. Now, I'm pretty sure Tottenham were about 14th in the list of clubs in terms of the gap between profit and money spent on wages.
So wages to turnover, that's generally what they use, isn't it?
Wages to turnover, yeah.
Yeah, that they'll use that, yeah.
And the top 5 or 6 clubs are exactly as you'd expect: Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, Manchester United, Man City, and maybe someone else. I'm not sure. I think Aston Villa are actually.
It's just an interesting way of looking at it, innit? Because it makes you think. When we sit for hours, because it makes you question the whole point of everything. Because we sit for hours and we talk about managers and plans and philosophies, and then you think, is it all pointless?
That's true. It's a good point,
Look at League One. Look at League One, right? We've got 2 teams top of the league, Birmingham and Wrexham. Now, I don't know the wages that these clubs have spent, but if you're going to ask me which 2 clubs do I think have spent the most in wages in League One, it would be one of them 2.
Yeah. And you're probably right. And you're probably about right in the Championship as well.
Yeah.
So,
Burnley, Leeds and Sheffield United are out up there.
Are we saying that Ange never stood a chance because of the model that Tottenham Hotspur have? No, I think if I'm gonna smoothly drag it into Tottenham territory now, I think that when you look at Tottenham Hotspur's team and the players that we've seen and certain performances that we've seen from them players over the last, let's say 2 years, let's say since the beginning of Ange's time here, that we would expect more from this team. And they have been, they struggled a lot last season with injuries. They've hobbled along a lot this season with injuries. But if you look at the players that they have at their disposal, they should be doing better. And I think that the fans have decided to turn because these managers refuse to change their philosophy in the pursuit of points and winning. Now, it's all well and good saying Ange didn't stand a chance because the wage bill reflects their league position. But that's not really true.
It doesn't tell the full picture. I completely agree. It doesn't tell the full picture. I think it's a good context. And it'll be interesting when we move on to Amorim looking at that context. But I think it gives good context to what's going on. But I completely agree it's not the full picture.
Do you think... So, do you give Ange a little bit more leeway or credit in the bank, the fact that he is hamstrung by the lack of spend at Tottenham Hotspur? Because money spent on transfers, Spurs are a little bit more, say, in a league table position.
Yeah. They
a
do
little bit more
spend.
you would expect
They
them
do
to be.
invest. Particularly, the thing is though, what they've done, and it is foolish. But I imagine I'd be shocked if Ange isn't part of these conversations. But they seem to have diverted a lot of their spend, particularly this summer, on younger players. And I think that's completely misguided in the Premier League. You cannot be Nice. You cannot be Celtic. You cannot be Ajax. You cannot buy young and sell high in the Premier League in the top and be at the top end of the table. It just does not work. You will get found out. So I do think that they've diverted money in the wrong areas, because for me, they look a poor side. And to bring it back to Ange, because I think it is important to talk about this. They have had injuries. You're right. They are hamstrung to an extent by the wages that they'll pay. But at the same time, they are not a good football side. They have regressed.
This is what I was going to say. That this isn't the picture that we had of Tottenham Hotspur at the beginning of the season. If you remember to the start of last season, where I think it was the first 10 weeks, there were 9 wins and a draw. They were like that.
Yeah, it was an outrageous form.
And we were all on the Ange is the best new thing since whatever. And that slowly died away, and they could pin a lot on injuries, and they probably had done enough to solidify at least a decent table finish at that point. I'm not sure where they've ended up finishing, maybe
fifth.
Fifth last season.
Fifth last year, yeah.
So you can imagine with the money that he was given in the transfer window, regardless of on who they spent it on, and before we started learning about ratios and profit margins, that they should have kicked on. Now, do you agree that the fans have turned because they're getting a bit tired of this one way of football, this all-out attack, crazy method that is clearly not working? And despite all the excuses that Ange will pull out that it's down to individual mistakes, I think he used it in the most recent weekend, or blaming it on a pile-up of injuries and stuff like that. I mean, at certain points, you've got to change your way here. You can't always be someone else's fault.
Maybe. I think losing big games is where you tend to lose fans when you lose big games, I think. And I think the Tottenham-Chelsea game really bothered them. That was a game that really got under the skin, and I think that's where he started to lose a lot of the fans. And he turned on him a little bit, didn't he? Sort of, he does have a bit of a vicious streak, Ange, as well. So he snapped back at him with a cup in his ear, didn't he, when they scored the disallowed goal? But fans will always turn on you when you lose big games. That's what they don't like. They don't like losing derbies. They don't like losing big games. And that will always, if you're not winning other games and then you lose them, that will do for most managers in any situation.
There wasn't maybe positive news about Tottenham though this week, and that's that they have appointed a new CEO. I think the position is coming. The ex-Arsenal.
Oh yes.
The ex-Arsenal CEO Vinay Venkateshan. Excuse me, 1 second. I need to not say this. Vinay Venkateshan, who had stepped down from his role maybe 2 years ago from Arsenal, so he hasn't just been sacked and jumped across the road. He's been out of a job.
Reverse Sol Campbell.
No, he's been out of a job for a while or taking a rest, and he was very well liked at Arsenal, very well thought of. He did a lot for the club in terms of the training ground, the academy, the women's team, the marketing side. I think he comes from a finance background. Very well respected, very well liked. He took over from Ivan Gazidis, if you remember him.
I do remember. He's in Italy now, isn't he?
He's in Milan, yeah.
Milan, yeah.
So I think that is a good appointment for Tottenham. Someone who has done a good job at a club. and knows the direction in which Tottenham probably need to be going. Do you think that is a positive for Ange, or do you think the writing is going to be on the wall now for Ange and now that thing's almost bolted?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you know more about the guy than I do, so I'll take your word for it. So, I knew it. I knew that there'd been a lot of thinking that he was very good for Arsenal's women's team, and I remember people saying that about him. But in terms of it being Franch, I mean that is the hot topic, isn't it? Is the Europa League enough for him to keep his job? I think in normal circumstances it probably would be. I just wonder whether the cup has soured too much. Maybe now. I do wonder. But it depends how that run goes. But if they get knocked out, is it Thursday they play? If they get knocked out on Thursday, he's gone on Thursday, I think. Or he'll be gone on Friday morning.
I do agree. I do think that there's too many people against him now rather than for him. Whereas maybe 5 or 6 weeks ago, you probably still had a bit of a team Ange about a good percentage of the Tottenham fans.
Could change if they win. It could. You never know, because it's been that long without a trophy. It could change hands. That and maybe a commitment to spending because they're back in the Champions League. There could be a change. I don't know though. I don't think they win the Europa League. So
no, but do you? I mean, you'll have known Ange a little bit more because you like to watch Celtic. So you've known Ange Postecoglu before he came to the Premier League a little bit. Are you surprised that it's gone like this for him? Is this more of a Tottenham thing than an Ange thing? I mean, I'm trying to work out where the most fault is and where Tottenham fans should be aiming their anger. We've seen earlier in the season that they've aimed a lot of anger at Levy and the ENIC group, and we spoke about that with our mate from Inter Legends FC.
Oh
Jack.
yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, I'm trying to work.
I know where you're going with it. So the thing that I keep hearing from Spurs fans about Postecoglu is that he's at his depth. That's a load of shite. The expectations he had to deal with, and you can say the difference between the Premier League and Scottish Premier League. I get that, but the size of club Celtic are and the expectations he dealt with there, and the actual having to win thing, not talk about it like Tottenham love to do. He had to win up there, right? But so he's had to deal with that pressure environment. It's not the pressure. The challenge is, I think, that he brought a football style that unfortunately didn't translate well to the English game. And I do think there is a reason it started so well, and it's because no one else was doing it, and it caught people off guard. It was brilliant, but unfortunately, like a lot of things in the Premier League, people work you out. They work out how to beat it, and I don't think he may have tried to adapt. People say he hasn't. He may have tried to, but the problem is that they're not a brilliant side. I think people seem to overstate how good that team is on paper. But because I look at that team and I don't think it's better than 8th as it is now. I mean, who's the best player? Who's the stand? Because you'd say a couple of years ago Son Heung-min, but not now.
Yeah, he's been off it. You'd like to think James Maddison's maybe the figurehead of that team. Kulusevski's probably been the standout player this season.
Yeah, Kulusevski's a good player.
To be honest, I really like Bergval. I think he's a good player, but does he fit into a really struggling team? I think Van der Ven's good. Can't seem to stay fit.
It's not a great team, is it?
No.
It's not.
They haven't got great strikers. I'm not a big fan of Solanke, to be honest.
He's not played all year either. Solanke's not played all year either.
Yeah.
Who's the standing? Richarlison.
Yeah.
Brennan Johnson's had a better year.
Brennan Johnson, yeah, I think he can be one of the Spurs players who can,
but
end the season with his head held high.
Would he get in any of the top? Would he get in
any
Arsenal,
say
City
7 teams above Tottenham? No, he wouldn't.
So I think, yeah. I mean, Kulusevski and Van der Ven are probably your two standouts for me. But like you say, Van der Ven barely plays. Maddison's been awful for a while now.
Yeah,
he's so hot and cold. He's had a really poor season.
So maybe when you look at players like that, is it easier to get rid of Ange and start again in a new direction with, a good group of players? Really, I think there's more. I think there's space for them. None of them are playing at their fullest, so there's a lot of room for them. You can get more out of Madison. You can get more out of Brennan Johnson, Solanke, these sort of players. Son, he's given enough. He's 32, going to be next season. Like he's done his time at Spurs, and he can happily sit back and think, I've done my bit. I can be a bit part player here. There's no one else in that team who can hold a candle to Son in terms of what he's given. Go on.
Here's a question: Who's got a better team, Tottenham or Newcastle?
Newcastle.
Right. So, I mean, what are Newcastle? 5th? No. I mean, they could go 3rd if they win.
3rd or 4th? Yeah, I'm not sure.
Who's got a better team, Spurs or Crystal Palace?
There's a good question. I would say on paper that one's pretty even, but I do like Crystal Palace. What the way
pretty even, right? What a Palace 10th.
Yeah.
I mean,
they're above Spurs.
Yeah, it's a bit. So yes, Ange, but Spurs' recruitment been terrible.
Right. So let's final verdict on Spurs before we move across up north. What do we see the future is for Spurs right now? Even if they do, in fact, I don't think they're going to win the Europa League. I think you're right that Ange goes before the season is finished, and I think they start next season afresh with a new manager. I haven't a clue in what direction that's going to be, but I think that is the only way that, especially with the new CEO coming in, that he can create something. Because Vinay was very important in the project that sort of set Edu and at the time Raul Sanelli and Mikel Arteta and put them 3. At the time it was Jonas Eidevall, not Jonas Eidevall, sorry. The guy who he was at Dortmund. I can't remember his name. Anyway, Sven Mislintat was his name.
Thank you.
Jonas Eidevall was the women's manager. No, so he put this group of people together to, all be in the same boat, blah, 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 following the same project. Anyway, Vinay was very important in that and the figurehead of it. So maybe him coming in, getting rid of the manager who clearly things haven't going right and can start afresh there. That's what I see.
So, yeah, they need change.
You see it any differently than that? You see anything differently happening?
Nah, they don't win. I mean, to be honest, I hope they do, but I don't think they will. I don't think they beat Frankfurt, to be honest. I think they're a good side, Frankfurt. I think he's gone by the weekend. Fortunately,
I don't want him to win anything. No, fuck him.
Well, I mean, I
listen. The other manager we mentioned at the top of the episode was Ruben Amorim. Now, you don't have to look that far on social media to see Manchester United fans starting to get disgruntled with him. They have a horrible record since he's come into the club. I mean, can you pick out a highlight moment? Beating Arsenal on penalties in the FA Cup, is that the highlight of Ruben Amorim's time since he's been in since November?
They've done okay in Europe, but the thing is, it's easier in it because of the Champions League teams not dropping in. It
so
does
much
make
easier.
it easy.
Yeah,
like they should win it. Them and Spurs should win it, but they won't. Well, I mean, United might actually. I think United will win the Europa League, but. Yeah, the highlight's probably been Europe, but they're playing like Bodo Glint and Rangers. Like they're European champions, fucking easier than our League One.
Yeah. So, what do you make of Project Amorim right now? I think we all knew it was going to be rocky. There was a lot that had to go through a little bit of heartbreak, but again, it's this unwillingness to change that has. Sometimes you just got to shut up shop and take some 1-0s and some 0-0s and stuff like that and get some points on the board. They had leaking goals and leaking points left, right and centre. And the manager just seems to sit in the press conference. People like him for, in speech marks, telling it how it is and being very honest.
He does make him. But I wouldn't like him as well, United.
Yeah, but is it... I mean, is it all right to just sit there and think, well, he needs a pre-season? You don't get a pre-season. You don't even get a pre-season in pre-season because you're doing a tour. And what is this? What is this magical pre-season that he thinks a Manchester United manager gets, where he gets 8 weeks unchallenged with his Manchester United team? It's not. Half of them are going doing press campaigns. Half of them are playing in other tournaments. Half of them are going off in internationals, getting married, having babies, all sorts of shit. This is Manchester United. They're going to be in Florida and Singapore at the same time, half the time.
Yeah. I really don't know where I stand on Amorim, because I do think there's a good manager there. But also, what are you doing? Like, why did you come? Like, I'm sick of hearing he didn't want to come to the summer. But he did, though, didn't he? Like, you did, though. So that doesn't matter now. It's all, you can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
And I don't know where I really don't know. I really flip-flop on this in my head. Like, I kind of get what you're doing, right? This is our system. You've got this time to say, I'll see who's up for it, and then I will make small progressive changes over a few windows, and we'll get where we want to go. Kind of get it. I do get it, but I never like this idea of washing your hands of having to win football matches.
Yeah.
I think a lot of clubs hide behind these idea of bigger plans, like 4 or 5. We've talked about this before. I usually throw this at Arsenal quite a lot, and it's because I do dislike it. I think that you kind of like, it's easy when you're trying to move the expectation or manage expectations, and
a little bit. I get that. Like,
you're letting other clubs do all the winning while you're in part of this journey, and that's the real quiz. Like, and it's like, we're making moves they can't see us, and it's just nothing ever. You never really pass that thing. And I don't know. It is a case of judging him next year. But if he starts next year badly, he's in a whole world of trouble.
The thing, let's just have a bit of a discussion here, because I don't really have a load of questions. They don't have the excuse that a Tottenham manager might say in terms of their wage to profit ratio.
They're trying to offload everyone who's on big wages. They're all the problem players. The correlation there is between high wages and them being an issue, or being bad at the club, or behavioural problems. It always seems to be like funny that
them stories come out. Yeah, but how can we put it? So they can't hide behind that one as an excuse. You're right in that I can't believe that people think Amorim is going to get this magical, mythical pre-season and also offload all the dead weight this summer. Like, you have to find a buyer for Casemiro or come to a ridiculous. And we've heard about Manchester United's PSR limitations. However how much you want to read into them is up to you. But what we know is what we've been told, and that they are pretty much on the brink, and we're almost cash poor by this time this year if they hadn't have made some drastic decisions, as Jim Ratcliffe said. So they're not going to be offloading 10 players all on high wages and bringing in 10 young superstars who fit the mould and fit Amorim's bill. That isn't going to be the case. Mason Mount and most likely Casemiro and Luke Shaw and Andre Onana and a lot of other potentially problem players who we've been talking about are still going to be there this time next year. So what does Amorim do here?
Well, this is
what do Manchester United do, and what I'm just trying to paint a picture here. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is the key thing for the brain's trust of all these super, best in class people that they've brought in, is getting these players out. That's going to be a massive challenge. Huge challenge. I think they've struck gold with Rashford's loan, because that has been a success. Whether he ends up at Villa or not, I suspect he will, to be honest. I think he will end up at Villa permanently. That seems to have been a success. He looks good there.
It's a good fit. There's less pressure at Villa. They're a good side, and Emery is a good manager, and Rashford on his day can be a really good, dangerous player. Without the, liking him to a player like Leon Bailey, who is also at Villa, but can have a few stinkers, and you can not hear about Leon Bailey for 5, 6, 7 weeks.
It's
And
different.
then,
You're exactly right. It's different. You can't have it. It's a completely different world.
yeah.
And yeah, I couldn't put it better myself. So,
So,
and what's good about Villa for them as well is that they can afford wages. They are a very, very rich club themselves. So I'm not saying they'll pay exactly what United are paying for him, but they may make an offer that's comfortable for him.
yeah.
And they'll
So,
probably take a whack of the transfer fee for himself as well.
but aside from that, they may be stuck back with Jadon Sancho, which is crazy thinking that a 24-year-old, potentially future superstar has turned into this dead weight who no one seems to want.
Yeah, it's funny how Luke in our little WhatsApp groups, the language has changed with Sancho when he realised about that clause of actually having to have him back. The slagging Sancho's whole season and found out about that clause, and he's just gone completely quiet on that, Luke, hasn't he?
I was going to see how long it took you to mention Luke when we started talking about Manchester United, but we don't need to worry about Luke. His opinion is varied, let's say the least. Not very steadfast and stubborn behind his opinions. Anyway, less about him. I want to speak about Manchester United more.
Yeah.
Do you expect them to stay with Amorim?
For now, yeah.
For
you
now
might as well.
What? Even if they go out of the Europa League this week?
Yeah. I think it's a different set of circumstances. I think he definitely gets his summer. And I think he probably gets another season unless they start horrifically badly season. That would make them tetchy, I think.
Yeah.
But I think he's gonna have a while yet. United don't sack managers quickly. They've got this United fans don't call for managers, but they feel like they're above that kind of thing, don't they? It's Manchester and we do things differently here. Like they're very much they're above that idea of calling for a manager's head. So he will get more time.
Maybe. But I'm still hearing a lot of noise now, even just listening to the radio the other day, that the fans who were calling in were the ones calling for his head. And they may be the vocal minority that we hear a lot about. The ones who shout the loudest, but they aren't in fact the majority of Man United fans. But is he like Ange, out of his depth? Is he a manager from the Portuguese league who, was doing all right? But is he the Portuguese version of Ten Hag? Is that what we're looking at?
He does seem to know what he's doing, but what I would say, he has said things that make you wonder that, like the idea of he's complaining about the media attention United. I'm mate, like you've joined Manchester United. Like, what are you on about? Like, of course you're gonna get media attention. Like you're
like dating Kim Kardashian and moaning about it.
Yeah, it's just nuts. Like, so he said a few things like that, and he's talked about this idea of the pressure of the shirt and stuff. Yeah, we just talked about Rashford. It's not necessarily the pressure of the shirt. It's when things go wrong, how magnified they are, and if you're able to cope with that. And not many people are able to or want to, because you've got better options. It's not like you're going there to win. You're just going there to be called a dickhead all the time.
So let's go on to how we finished up with Spurs, but final steps and next steps for Manchester United. What's your opinion here? What happens for the now into the rest of the season and them going forward?
I think they'll win the Europa League. I just do. I think they're the team that will come through. I think they've got a good result out in Lyon, despite Onana doing his best to fuck that up. I can't believe when he was talking, like a goalkeeper putting that pressure. Like it's just absolutely brain dead. But whatever. Yeah, I think they go through. And I think they win it. If they don't win it, I think it's just phasing the season out and taking stock in the summer and doing everything that we talked about a minute ago. But I think they'll stick with him either way. What do you think?
Okay. I also think they will, but I think we're looking at an accelerated version of what happened with Ten Hag. And like I say, even if they need to start next season really well. And this pre-season that has been mentioned so many times needs to be blasted all over social media. Like it needs to be front and center. Project Amorim. Everyone's buying in. Everyone's on board. Whatever new signings they get need to be in fast. We haven't spoke much about this split up transfer window that we're going to be having because of the Club World Cup, but Man United need to be acting in the first half of this transfer window. So that could be an interesting part of the summer as well. Let's have a 5-minute break. Before we do leave you all for 1 second, please go like, share, subscribe, and do all that good stuff because it really helps us out with algorithmic changes to the world of social media and podcasting. So do us a favour. If you need any of the links, they're at www.fixingfootballpodcast.com. And we'll see you in a minute. Bye. And we are back. Liam O'Meara, talk to me about Bolton Wanderers. It was a loss. First question: why do you always play Barnsley? Like, what's
honestly?
is
Honestly,
it every other week?
I know their team as well as I know our team. It's all the time. Every cup we get them, playoffs every. Well, we don't need to talk about that this year, but yeah, it's a bit of a. It's become a bit of a grudge match as well, obviously, because we have to.
Must have played him 7 times a year.
Yeah, I know. Do we have to talk about them?
No, we don't have to go into it loads, but is that? I mean, how many games have we got left now? What are we looking at?
4, I think. 4.
Playoffs? Yes, no.
No,
Do you
probably
think
not.
that's?
It's not done. It's not. Amazingly, we're still in the hunt. Like we are, but I just don't think we're playing well enough.
Okay.
We just can't. We've got fundamental issues in the squad, and I think Schumacher's had a positive effect, but those problems are still there. So I'd be surprised if we made the playoffs now. We've got a tough game on Good Friday at home to Wickham, who, to be fair, are on a bit of a downward slide themselves. They're struggling a little bit. So you never know. We could get a result. Well, we should win. We're at home. We should beat everybody at home. There's literally we should win every single home game. And then we'll see. Well, we're not out of it. You've got to keep going, and it's all well and good sort of spitting your dummy out and thinking about next season, but we've still got something to play for. So that's the case. You just keep going. But I'll be honest, if I was being more subjective, I'd look at it and go, sorry, objective. So if I was being more objective, I'd look at it and go, they just concede too many goals, Bolton. And that's it in a nutshell, really.
It's hard to cement that up once it's been pretty leaky all season. He's done a good job since he come in, Schumacher, but them cracks are still there. That
problem he hasn't solved. I think he's made us a lot better in other ways, but he hasn't solved us conceding goals. And I think I talked about this last week. It's not just the defense. It's the whole team's approach to defending is poor.
Yeah.
Really, we are slow in terms of after the initial press from the forward line. We're very slow, in my opinion, closing down in midfield. We don't press well in that area. We aren't alert to movement in the box, so players can get free. So players have not only can receive the ball in the air, they can receive the ball at the feet in the box. And it's just, we're just and our defensive midfield position. So who are arguably some of our better players like Morley, Sheehan, Thomason, their defensive awareness isn't good enough. So they're occupying a part of the pitch where theoretically their team's best players are, and they're not defensively aware of them. And it means we can be opened up at any point. So that needs changing, and we won't do anything until it does.
It's a fair assessment. Birmingham confirmed as champions. No surprise there. Wrexham
the
looking
fairy tales continue. Yeah, nice one.
Wrexham looking most likely to join them. They have a point on Wickham. Actually, do you expect that to be the case as well?
Yeah, I mean, like I said at the beginning of the season, I said that this year will be much harder to go up than the year before because of because of Birmingham, Wrexham, and Stockport being in it made it much harder because that's the budget. So, but conversely, next season it's likely to be a little bit rosier again. They're not there. The storm has passed through, if you will. So This is the issue with. I mean, a lot of Bolton fans are getting all worked up about it, and yes, we should have had a better season. We should be in the playoff positions, but automatics this season was always going to be a tough ask because of that.
Yeah,
and we were installed early favourites, and I said at the beginning of the year, I didn't buy into that. The year before I did, I was banging the drum saying we should do it. But this year I was very open and said, I don't see it this year. I think this year will be tough. And it kind of played out that way, unfortunately.
Fair. Okay.
But, enough about Bolton.
I was going to say,
talk about Arsenal.
Speaking of not giving up until it's over.
Talk about Arsenal versus Real Madrid, Martin. You've not had the opportunity yet to talk about that result.
Oh, thank God. I thought I was going to talk about Premier League then.
No, what's the point? There's no
done.
point. Yeah.
Yeah. Our team selection and performances are pretty evident that it is done. Arsenal v Real Madrid. This will go out the day before our second leg. We're going in with a 3-0 lead. That win against Real Madrid is just an absolutely unbelievable result. We don't need to talk about it too much. Declan Rice has had enough praise about being the world's greatest free kick taker, and we already have the world's greatest striker in Mikel Merino wrapping it up for us. So we're in a really good position. I just hope we go out there, play every defender we've got available, and really shut up shop. Is
that the way to do it? I'm not convinced.
Yeah, you're probably right. I don't think that is the way to beat Real Madrid, because if you let them attack you, they will keep going at you. They will not stop, and they will probably score 3 goals. No matter.
I'm not saying you don't slow the tempo down, because I think you absolutely slow the tempo down and you try and frustrate them.
It'll be that. That's what
all those
Arsenal.
Yeah, all those Arsenal dark arts coming out, all that. But
I want Raya going down in the first 4 minutes. I want all of it.
But you want to sting them. You want to keep attacking them and keeping them on the back foot, because they are conceding a lot of goals, aren't they, Real?
Yeah, and they look pretty rattled. There's been reports of Bellingham and Rudiger having a bit of a confrontation in training this week. Yeah.
Excuse me. I know my money would be on.
Starboy.
The chosen one, not the chosen one. No.
Starboy is ours. The Mbappe red card that was doing the rounds on WhatsApp and social media was horrendous. It's a horrible Sunday league tackle of pure frustration. It was horrible tackle, that, and it's just born out of frustration. There's no mistake in it. There's nothing. It's just a ridiculous. If you haven't seen it, just search for Mbappe on Instagram or X, and you'll find it quick enough. It's a horrific tackle.
Still waiting on the interview.
Maybe he'll come on in the close season, but we'll see. So they are a bit rattled. I think looking like the league might be just out of reach for them now, with Barcelona picking up some more points at the weekend, but that could go up until the last week of the season as well. With all their eggs being in the Champions League basket, I mean, even in their press conferences, like Vinicius was asked, Ancelotti, Bellingham, they were all asked about the match where they'd just recently drawn 1-1, the one of the previous weekend, and they were all speaking about Wednesday night.
Getafe was it? I'm not.
Yes, yeah, I think it was. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
No, was it Sociedad? Regardless, it doesn't matter. If it's not Barcelona,
Italian football's my thing at the moment. I'm watching a lot of Italian and German football. I've always watched a lot of German, but I'm watching more Italian now than I used to.
Italian football's having a bit of a renaissance, which I like.
Do you know what it is? It's that good. It has that good Sunday evening slot. I've talked about this quite a lot, haven't I? Where there's no good sport on, and just shit TV. But I can sit there watching. There's always, like, I think last night it was the Rome Derby. Well, last night we recorded on Monday. It was the Rome Derby last night, and it's like it's such a good slot that no one else uses. So every guy at BT Sport have a really good Italian match on that. Good.
So yeah, Real Madrid were very focused on Wednesday night. Wednesday night was mentioned in every press conference. Wednesday night, like they'd made a point of bringing it up. Like, yes, this match happened, but we're all focused on Wednesday night. We'll see Wednesday night, and they're trying to bring it. They're talking about having the roof closed and making this cauldron of atmosphere, and basically that's their attempt at doing something special. They've not come down from a deficit like this before, but we have seen things like this happen in the Champions League.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not an over tie, but
I would hate for them to get an early goal and see what happens to Arsenal at that point, because we have looked leggy a lot of times this season, and we've struggled to get into our groove. Like the game against Real Madrid we were in our groove. We were the better team all game, aside from maybe a 5 or 6 minute spell for Real Madrid in the first half. We were the best side all the way through. And we have been in certain games this season, like against City as well earlier on in the season. We were the better team. Against Liverpool earlier on, we've just not capitalised loads on these matches, and this time we did. So, as long as we go through this tie, it will be a success, and that's the only point. And I'm looking forward to.
So this game on Wednesday night.
Wednesday night, yes.
It's nice to be able to watch one, because that's the thing with being a Bolton fan. You do miss some of the the big games. Like when I come out and I think we drew at home to whatever shit team we played last Tuesday, and I come out and check my score and I'd seen it. Yeah, well, we lost. And I come out and I'd seen you'd won 3-0, and I was like, oh my God. Like, I just didn't want to look at my phone. I was like, oh, just go and going to. I think I even said I'm just going to bed. Like,
I wasn't taking the pics of it, but yeah. League's gone. That's done. Draw with Brentford at the weekend. It was just is what it is. You could tell our heads weren't there. And we've come into a lot of matches like that this season for some reason, where it's like we are owed a win. Like it's a given that we're going to win based on our talent and our game plan and certain tactics. And sometimes you might have 10, 12 corners and you don't score them. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes you can have 99% possession and you don't score.
Yeah, and I think sometimes you can get into and I think this happens quite a lot, and people forget people think their second string players are better than they are, because sometimes they'll come in and they'll play in a good team, and you're like, they're at this level. But when you play them all together, they're not. And you look at someone like Ewaneri, as good as he is, but if he's then playing with Sterling, he's then playing with... and it's not then all of a sudden his level isn't as good as you think it is. And then someone like, if you look at Mbeumo for Brentford, better player, and it's just you don't look at it in those terms. It's hard to, in a way.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I was trying to think of an example then, but no, I totally know what you mean. So yeah, fingers crossed for Wednesday. Hopefully by the time.
What team are you going to play then? You're going to be the same team.
Partey's not available. I don't know if Ben White's going to be available. There's talk of Calafiori being back, which is good. I wouldn't be surprised if Tierney started, but as well as Lewis Skelly, by the way. I wouldn't be surprised if Jorginho started alongside Rice. I think Saka will start. Marino will definitely start. Yeah, it's just going to be hopefully super controlled, calm performance that they can keep their heads, because they need to. That's my hope, and then we can start looking forward to the semi-finals. We're going to wrap the episode up there. So next week, I won't be responding to a potential semi-final win, because we have pre-recorded our 100th episode. And you'll be able to watch us live in the flesh, where we are on video for the first time in our 100th episode. So please stay tuned for that. Make sure you subscribe and share and like, and you'll be able to find that everywhere you can find video podcasts. The four of us are back. The whole squad is back on the episode. We had a bit of a reminisce, a bit of a look back, a few questions, a bit of fan Q&A, which was nice. We had a good time, didn't we?
We did have a good time. I was well prepped. You did say that.
I nearly cut that bit out, but I've just left it in for your sake. But
everyone was too prepped. It was already getting long. If I'd have been poorly prepped as well, we'd have been there all night.
I did ask you to prep, but
I know.
That's the way it goes. So please stay tuned for next week's episode, and we will be back just after Easter. Hope you all have a nice one. A nice break, a nice couple of days off.
All being well, Martin, this is the end of our last just audio-only podcast, wouldn't it?
That's the plan. We hope to start seeing people live and in the flesh for, a lot more often.
Our last double-digit
from now
podcast.
on. That's it. This is episode 99. We'll see you on episode 100, and then we'll be back live just after the Easter break. And we'll catch you all then. Liam, thanks a lot. It's been good not seeing you. This is just audio now. No one can see us.
We're going to have to see what you will look like now.
We'll have to start dressing up. I'm going to wear a suit. Bye, everyone.